Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-Minute Histories videos. And today I've come a little north of Baltimore City, up I-83. I'm at Oregon Ridge Park, and it is a gray day for sure, but there are signs of spring. And we thought we'd help usher in spring by doing a video of this fantastic 1,000-acre park. I am pleased that I'm going to be joined by a gentleman named Dr. Ralph Brown, a former Baltimore Heritage Board member and currently president of the Oregon Ridge Nature Council, the Friends group that helps up here. Before I turn it over to Dr. Brown, though, to talk about some recent things that have happened here and where things are heading in the years to come, let me say a word or two about some of the early days. The very earliest days, Baltimore County records show that folks from the Shawnee Nation inhabited this area. Probably the first European settler to live here was a gentleman named Thomas Todd in the early to mid 1700s. By about the early to mid 1800s, a man named John Merriman lived here. As a somewhat aside, Merriman was a former state treasurer and Southern sympathizer during this Civil War. He was thrown in jail at Fort McHenry for his sympathies. He argued to Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, Roger Taney, another Marylander, that the government shouldn't be allowed to just throw him in jail without giving him a chance to argue back. And Judge Taney agreed, but President Abraham Lincoln did not, and said, "Watch me. The Constitution, as I read it, says that I can." And that was a very controversial decision of the day, and to my knowledge, that issue has never been fully resolved. But we're here to talk about a park, not constitutional law, so back to the park. By the middle of the 1850s, this was a thriving iron furnace, mining and making iron ore, a type of ore called gatite, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, was mined here, as well as marble that was crushed up and used in the process to turn iron ore into pig iron. And along with it came a town, Oregon Furnace Town, about 200 residents, many of them black Marylanders and Irish immigrants. You can still see remnants of the town and a couple foundations of houses and the furnace itself. And you can definitely see the old company store if you come to lunch or dinner at Oregon Ridge Grill. That's in the old company store. The furnace operated here until about 1857 when operations were transferred to a nearby furnace. The mining kept going until 1899. And that's when Bethlehem Steel built the first of its plant at Sparrows Point. It used a new technique called the Bessemer process for making pig iron, and that allowed it to use cheaper iron ore coming out of South America. Apparently it was cheaper to mine it and ship it from South America than it was to get it from up here in North Baltimore County. So in 1899, the furnace closed. The town continued until the 1920s when the last of the folks here moved out. Let me say two interesting things before turning it over to Ralph Brown. And first of those is in the 1940s, during World War II, German prisoners of war were held at places all over the United States, including in Pikesville. And at least in Pikesville, they used to loan them out for a day, if you will, sort of manual labor to local businesses and landowners. And there is a good deal of evidence to suggest that at least one of the ponds here, called Ivy Hill Pond on a trail back behind me, was built in part by German prisoner of war labor back during World War II. Second interesting thing is in the 1960s, a hill here was an active ski slope, all 140 feet of it, with a rope tow and everything. The problem was there was not enough natural snow on a regular basis, it was not cold enough on a regular basis to make snow, so the skiing didn't last for long. In 1969, the family that then owned a big chunk of this property, the Kurtz family, sold it to Baltimore County to become the sort of the first starting point for a park. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Brown to tell us a little bit about some more recent history and what's going on today. Ralph, we are all yours.
And I want to show you a picture of three birds here. Okay, this top bird is a scarlet tanager, the middle bird is an indigo bunting, and the bird on the bottom is a Baltimore oriole. Now you might think that you have to travel to Costa Rica to see those such colorful birds, but several years ago I saw those three birds sitting near each other on a single tree here in Oregon Ridge. But in order for these birds to survive, they need a healthy hardwood forest. And unfortunately, the woods at Oregon Ridge are not regenerating now. And that's because of incredible deer pressure and the explosion of invasive plants. Now, fortunately, Johnny O, who is the chief executive of the county, and Bob Smith, who's the director of Rec and Parks, recognized this problem. And last year, they hired a landscape architect firm called Lardner Klein to write a 20-year master plan for the park. The final master plan report set as the highest priority the restoration, the preservation, the enhancement of the natural environments here at Oregon Ridge. So that's the woods, the streams, the meadows, our hiking trails. So I'm hopeful that, like those citizens back in the 1980s, that we also can be the next generation of people who are being good ancestors for future generations.